Right, I'm just going to give it a few minutes to see if more people join and then we can begin. Sorry, for those of you who just joined, I'm just waiting for a few more minutes, so if more people join, the better it'll be, and then we can start. Right, I think we have enough people now. I guess people can just join in as the session goes on. Good afternoon to all of you who've tuned in. This is going to be a solo session by me. My name is Hassan Wine. I just recently joined the DKS head office and I am currently serving in the marketing department. So this is going to be a solo session for today, and it's going to be fairly informal. So if you have any questions, I think I'll be able to see them and I'll try and respond as the session goes on. I would also like to put in a bit of a disclaimer before I get started. I just want to say that this is being an informal session. Right, glad you could join us, Johor campus. Being an informal session, this does not reflect any official instructions from the DKS head office or any official stance from the DKS head office. The main objective of this session is just to educate the participants of this, the attendees of this session, on what they can do in their campuses to help protect their the faculty and the students. So, to start with, I just want to give a brief rundown of the current COVID situation in Pakistan. As we all know, I believe it was on March 10th that the government ordained that all educational institutions in Punjab be put on a 2-week spring break because of the rising cases of COVID in certain districts. So those districts were put on a lockdown for the educational institutions, mostly in Punjab. So this was supposed to last from the 15th of March to the 28th of March. I believe that there was a meeting conducted today, and the latest report from that meeting, thank you for joining us from Raza campus. The latest report from that meeting is that they are looking to extend the lockdown of educational institutions in those areas, I believe, where the percentage of COVID cases is above 8%. So it still remains to be seen which districts exactly will still be on lockdown. As far as I know. Again, this is an informal session. My information might be incomplete, information might change as things go on. However, eventually, of course, educational institutions will open, your schools will open, campuses will open, and it's very important that when they do, that steps and SOPs be followed to ensure that your staff, your faculty, and students are protected when they start attending daily classes. So the reason this is so very significant is because the current cycle of lockdowns and then reopenings in Pakistan is one where there's an increase in cases in the country. The government puts everything on lockdown, and then yes, I believe that, yes, that's what I read as well, Hina, that the lockdown will be till the 11th. So far, they've mentioned schools, but it's still not sure in which districts it'll be, because they did mention that it'll be 8% cases. Districts in where there's more than 8% of cases. In those areas, the educational institutions will be in lockdown. So you should just keep an eye out on the news and see how things develop, because I'm as unaware about the situation as you are. So as I was saying, the current situation is that you, sorry, not you, but the government puts things on lockdown because there's an increase in COVID cases. Then after a while, because the economy is suffering, they take everything off of lockdown. And the problem then that arises is that most people tend to go about their daily business as if though, because the lockdown has been lifted, the COVID virus just doesn't exist anymore, which is obviously untrue. So when the lockdown is lifted, it's very, very important that we follow the SOPs that have been set out by the government, that we try and ensure that our faculty and our staff and our students in particular are kept safe. Because this is the only way, and this is the only way, that we are going to ensure that there isn't another lockdown again in the future. And no one wants another lockdown. So it's very important that we follow certain guidelines. The main question then is how can school administrators protect the health, safety, and well-being of students, teachers, and staff during this time? And this is one that I'll be trying to address during the session. The first major step that everyone here should be taking is to encourage the vaccination of your senior staff and faculty members, those who are over the age of 60. We are very fortunate that this time around, during this lockdown of educational institutions, there is actually a vaccine which is already in Pakistan. It's available for senior citizens. I would strongly urge you to advise your staff, advise your faculty, if they're over 60, if they're over 70, to go out, get registered. You can get registered by sending your CNIC number to 1166 from a mobile device. And then I believe you just walk into any vaccine center and you can get vaccinated. It's very important that you do this, because the more people are vaccinated, the more they will, obviously, there'll be more immunity to the virus. So this is the first major step. I believe that that a vaccine will eventually be made available by the government for all other age groups. Again, we need to stay posted on that. And then when that comes in, I would strongly urge everyone to go and get the vaccine done. So, secondly, when you're actually teaching, when you're conducting in-person teaching, make sure that your classrooms are well ventilated. Your classrooms will have doors, they'll have windows. Just make sure that the windows are open, the doors are open. Make sure that the classroom is well ventilated, that the air in the classroom is not stagnant. If you have a practice of conducting outdoor teaching, then do that. You can also, thirdly, reinforce the use of masks and hand sanitizers. Hand sanitizers and masks, you can reinforce the practice of using these things by actually doing them yourself. So encourage your teachers, encourage your staff to converse with students, to point out the importance of using masks. Constantly use hand sanitizers in front of them so that you can drive home the point of the importance of using hand sanitizers. Another step, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you have heard these before. Another step that you can take is social distancing. Now, the minimum the minimum distance that you should be keeping between you and another person is 6 feet. Obviously, that isn't always possible in classrooms, because students they sit together. Teachers tend to group them together. They're grouped together in classrooms. So in classrooms, at least attempt to maintain a 3-foot distance between students. Just make sure that they're not too close together. And you can also potentially, again, these are general guidelines. These are not official instructions that I'm giving you. These are suggestions. So you can also adopt a policy known as cohorting. Cohorting involves separating a student body in a classroom into different groups. So for example, if you have a class in which you have 15 students, you divide them into 5 groups of 3. And then you ensure that these groups individually stay with each other throughout the day and that they don't mingle with other groups. This basically prevents that group's exposure to the coronavirus. And this also helps in staggering classes. By staggering classes, I mean that if, for example, you have a class that starts at 12 and ends at 1, in which you're teaching 15 students. If you were to cohort, then what you can do is that you can teach 5 students from 11 to 12. Then once that group of students leaves, you can teach another group of students from 12 to 1 and so on. So the entire point of doing something like this is to minimize contact between students. Again, these are just general guidelines. You can also, and you should also actually, clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces like surfaces and objects in the classroom like doors, desks, chairs, cabinets. You can do this during recess when there isn't anyone in the classroom. It should actually be done on a daily basis, but if you can do it more frequently, if you can do it in between activities and in between class sessions, then that would be preferable. Coming to recess, it's the same objective as staggering classes. You can also stagger the recess. So if your recess is from, for example, again, let's say 12 to 1, then you can just divide that into, you can just section that off for different classes throughout the day. So one class can have their recess at 10 to 11, another class can have their recess 11 to 12, and then the third can have their recess 12 to 1. You need to ensure, it's important that parents are educated on this matter because there is potential that parents actually don't know about the seriousness of this threat. They don't know about the seriousness of the COVID pandemic. So it's important to maintain contact with the students' parents. Make sure that they're completely informed. Thank you for joining us, Expo Center Campus. It's important to keep parents in the loop. Keep them educated about what they can do at home to ensure the prevention of the spread of the pandemic. Again, they can just do the things that I've mentioned before: ensure the use of masks, ensure the use of sanitizers, maintain social distancing, etc., etc. Lastly. Last point, you can also use hybrid learning wherever it's applicable. Hybrid learning involves teaching in an online virtual classroom. You can use an application like Zoom. Schools will obviously eventually open for in-person learning, so when they do open for in-person learning, it's important to not just immediately bring every student into a class and just fill your classrooms, because again, it doesn't matter if you're off lockdown. The pandemic hasn't gone anywhere, so we still need to make sure that we're taking these steps. This is again up to you, up to your discretion. You can you can divide your classrooms. Some of them can be taught online, some of them can be taught in person. That's completely, totally up to you. Most of these guidelines are up to your discretion to apply as you see fit. But again, I would like to stress that it's important that steps are taken. Because if steps aren't taken, then we're just going to go back into the cycle where COVID cases are going to rise, and we're going to see another lockdown. And the problem with these repeated lockdowns is that the entire economy just comes to a halt when it happens. And no one wants this, and we need to do what we can to ensure that people are protected and to ensure that people are kept safe when these lockdowns are lifted. So I think that's all for now. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be doing these sessions more frequently, hopefully. This was just the first of many. So if you want to be updated about when our next session is going to happen, please like and follow our Facebook page. I believe it's called the Knowledge School Network. Like and follow our Facebook page. We'll be posting updates there, and we will let you know there when the next session is going to happen. Today's session was a solo session. I'm sorry about that, but I'm sure in future sessions we'll be covering other topics, and we will also be inviting more people onto these sessions, so that we can have more in-depth discussions about the topics. So with that's all for now. Please don't forget to follow the page, and thank you all for attending. I will see you soon.